Hearken warriors, welcome to the Brothers Gadenne Podcast, where we prepare you for the fury of emergencies, disasters, and the battles of everyday life. For Elder Verism, let us begin. A man's home is his castle, but only if he knows how to defend it.
Castle. Be nice to have a castle. I've seen a few getting around. They're not as popular around Australia as they used to be.
No. I stayed in like this castle once for a friend's wedding. Someone like semi sort of castle vibes, had a turret built into it. It was just a house really, but not big in Australia. But I've seen a few for sale overseas, and we will buy one.
I feel like there needs to be a resurgence of castle building.
Yeah, I actually think it's the next big thing, and if it's not, I'm going to try and make it a thing. You know how there's like a fashion, quite often based on the past. So, you know, like the 70s were big for a bit, and then people were in the 80s, and now like the 90s is retro. I want to go way back. I want medieval.
All houses by law must have a turret.
Yes.
Plus or minus a moat.
Yes. So today's episode, what we're talking about is securing your own domicile. Your house, home defense. This is the art of home defense.
Home defense, it's a bit of an interesting topic because, you know, most of us live in a home, sometimes a mobile home, but most of us don't live in a castle, and you need a way to defend it. And we're not just talking about threats from other humans, which is probably what most people talk about when they talk about home defense. But threats from the elements, threats from disease, pestilence, all those sorts of things can come under this banner of preparing your home for defence.
Yeah. So to start with a little bit of a mini scenario, if you will, just to get your grey matter ticking over, put you in the mood, as it were. It's the early hours of the morning. No power, no phone. A shadow moves past your gate. You realise everything you relied on is out. What stands between you and your family and that figure in the dark? Not hope, never hope. Hope is not a strategy, just whatever you planned, trained, and hardened. So how hard is your castle?
It's a good question to ponder. Yeah, especially the way homes are built these days. We don't build them out of solid brick or rocks anymore. They can be quite flimsy. And are they set up to hold up? And what do you do to keep it secure?
No, I dare say a trebuchet and or a catapult would probably take out my house. I just haven't built defences for it. I don't know. I feel like I've wasted my time in many ways. I've got shields and swords.
That's a good start.
Yeah, but not trebuchet specific defence.
Which is probably a good point to ponder as well, as we look at this spectrum of home defence, all the way from just getting your home safe to massive paranoia. And how much time do you put in preparing your home for the catapult attack? And how much time do you just make sure that your doors are locked?
Yeah, because, I have touched on this in previous things that I put out on the internet before, and invariably there is that dude. I say it's a dude, might be a chick, but it's usually a dude who's like, well, I've got metal doors and I've got bars on my windows and, you know, blah, blah, blah. I've double brick wall, everything. And I've got standoff space, and then I've got a fallback location in my backyard. I'm like, what the hell are you preparing for, man?
Yeah, it's got his safe room, but it's no fun living in a prison.
No.
Your house has to look nice. It has to be comfortable as well.
So that's what we're going to talk about today, is realistic ways you can harden your house. And not all of them are actually, you know, that's usually where people jump to first, is like, well, I've got to make sure the door can't be kicked in. That's good. That's a good thing to do. But there are many other things that are more subtle that are actually going to work. So we're going to talk about, to start off with, the 4 Ds. Defense. No, defense isn't one of them. No, this stands for deter, detect, delay, and deny. And this is kind of classic harden target, or target hardening, I should say, in a military type sense, this is some of the things that we'd think about always. And that goes hand in hand with layers of defense or defense in depth. You don't just want, right, they can get to my front door and the front door is as hard as a hard thing. By the way, yeah, sometimes people from outside of Australia listen to this podcast. And so you say things like hard as, which makes total sense to an Australian. You know,
but not
to anyone else. They're just waiting like hard as.
As what?
No, it's just hard as. It is hard.
That's the end of the sentence right there.
Yeah, so we'll look at these in a bit more depth, but just to kind of give you a little bit of a flash on them, deter, what we're thinking about is really the criminal planning cycle. If you really want to boil it down, somebody is looking at your house to target it. They're looking, or you to target, or anything like that. They really look at this from two perspectives. They go, is there value here for me? So does your house, in this case, look valuable? Is it in an area of the world that holds value? Most of Australia, I would argue, does have value to someone. So that's something that you need to think about. And then they look at it and go, how hard is this target for me to affect or get away with? So you've got the value scale and you've got the hardness or softness scale. So deter for me is really about upping that hardness, that perceived hardness, thinking things like just like lights and dogs and cameras and all that sort of stuff. So where somebody looks at this house and goes, I'll go down the street because it's going to be an easier house. Somebody's left their doors unlocked. Detect. So knowing someone's coming, getting some sort of warning. The classical one for this, and one that I actually do utilize, is cameras and notifications. So my phone, which just buzzed then, to tell me that something's moving around my house. Generally, it's my dog. And here is a warning for this, that you can get information overload from this.
Yeah, my phone buzzes all day with exactly that problem.
Yeah, and so you just end up ignoring it.
Yep.
So don't do that. Delay, so slowing someone down. So this might be a reinforced door. This one actually is a really good point that I want to harp on a little bit before we jump into anything else. This idea that you can create a hardened space that no one can get into. I don't think it's really true. In some of my experiences when I was in the military, part of my role was getting into places, and that was usually through explosive means. So slapping a charge on the front door and blowing it in, or shotgunning out the hinges, or chainsawing down the door, or partner sawing through metal stuff. But what it really taught me was, if you've got enough tools and time and knowledge or resources, and especially will, more than anything, if you've got enough will to get in there, then almost anyone can get into almost anywhere. Locks can be picked, doors can be kicked in, structures can be set on fire. You can get into a place if you really want to get into it. So if you think like, well, I'll create the biggest, hardest concrete bunker that I can, that could even get in. Like somebody could even get into that. But what you are doing is delaying that person getting to you or to your valuables. So that's delay. And then deny. So make it almost impossible. So now you are talking about your hardened safe rooms with reinforced concrete, thick iron doors, some sort of fancy super locks, or just actually not fancy super locks, just old school metal bars, which still work.
Surprisingly pretty tough.
Yeah, and the caveat for that, for denial, is actually near impossible, because like I said, I don't believe anything is impossible. I've made it difficult for someone to get in through my front door, but it's not impossible. Again, if you rocked up to my house with a trebuchet.
And that all that sort of harps back to the original one of deter. So if you're looking at these people that want to make entry into your premises, you're trying to have them say, look, that just looks too hard for me today, and I'll find somewhere a little bit softer. And so with all of these principles, think about your location and think about how you'd set these up around your house, how you'd set them up in concentric sort of expanding circles, or a layered approach, as we like to call it. Setting them up so there's different layers where you can go over, and you can use the same principle of deter and detect and delay throughout the house or throughout your property or whatever you're trying to protect today. and set it up so they layer on top of each other just to slow people down.
So if you were to approach the house, say, let's just call it the house, the ideal house, you might from a distance already see that they've got overt cameras up. So again, that's starting to deter someone from even approaching. Doesn't deter everyone. Like people still, walk under cameras and ignore them or don't know they're there or don't care or wear masks.
Pull their hoodie down.
Yep. So there are ways around cameras, but it is something that might then be balanced against the next door neighbour who doesn't have any overt cameras. Then if you get closer, so my house, you can see that there's cameras out the front. You get closer, you get within probably 5 metres of the house, floodlights kick on. Again, another deterrence. It doesn't stop anyone. No one's stopped by light shining on them, but it's a deterrence. Nobody wants to be lit up, especially if they've got nefarious intent. They don't want to be seen. They don't want to be triggering such things. Then, I don't know if you just heard it in the background there, the ultimate defense.
Dogs. My favourite.
Yep. These bloody dogs will bark at anything, which is sometimes annoying, but I've never tried to train it out of them.
No, sometimes annoying, especially to the neighbours.
Yeah.
Sometimes offer you free notes of advice.
Yeah, appreciate it.
But dogs don't have to be, an attack dog. It doesn't have to be huge. Even your little dogs that bark a lot will act as a good deterrent to keep people away.
Yeah, I've got a layered dog system where I've got a tiny, tiny little dog that's like hyper aware, and it'll go off first, and that then initiates the larger German Shepherd to kick in.
Bit like a trigger charge.
Yeah, yep.
Trigger charge dog.
Exactly. Yeah, so I mean, at the end of the day, a lot of this sort of stuff ends up being buying you time. Ideally, you don't want to be targeted in the first place, so you're going to do things around that idea to not be targeted. But these are some of the easy things that most people can do quite easily. I mean, getting a dog's not.
I'll just sort of comment, bit of a side comment here is, look, we talk about like deter and that, but being somewhere of value, if nefarious people think you have something of value inside, they'll put more effort into getting in. So putting up these overt big deterrents to go, I'm going to have the biggest fence with the biggest spotlights and the biggest dogs. It looks like there's something valuable in there that we need to get into.
Yeah, double-edged sword for it. So it's always something to think about. How, like, what are you telling everyone by what you're doing? Yes, I'm a hard target, and the question should be, why?
Why? What are you hiding in there?
Are you growing drugs?
Just that's cool Star Wars figures.
Yeah.
That's all I'm protecting.
They're worth a lot.
Yeah.
The slightly more technical aspect of this is actually controlling the entry avenues to your house. So it is a bit more difficult. What I've tried to set up around my house has made it a bit more difficult for someone to just come in off the street, straight off the street, get to your front door. Like they at least have to turn corners. They have to go up and down levels. There's some sort of hindrance to just openly walking in. I can't remember the exact study that, so I won't be able to quote it, but it was something to the effect of they found that people who just had a shut gate, doesn't matter if it's locked or anything, they had a gate out the front of their house and the gate was shut, were a lot, and I want to say 2/3 more or less likely to be targeted in a robbery. So just that simple thing of closing a door, closing a gate, having that barrier there reinforces a psychological barrier that people have where they don't want to then open that in order to get in. So these are things you can start to think about, like, again, in depth. Can you have a gate or something out the front? Can you have something that people have to pass through in order to get to it? That can be difficult, especially if you are renting, you're living in apartments. Even if you're living in houses, certain rules in your area might restrict you from doing certain things like that. Or you might just aesthetically not want to.
Yeah, and you've got to think about how difficult it's going to be for you to get in and out of your property every day. Do you want to be like at the start of like Get Smart? I don't know how many of you have seen that series where he walks into the telephone booth, presses down, goes down, passes another button, goes through another door, zips open, goes in an elevator, drops down. Like, how many different ways do you have to get into your house every day?
Yeah, it could be annoying. Also, if you were getting chased by zombies.
Yeah, you want a quicker entrance than that.
Unlock gates and, oh shit, they're coming. All right, let's step it out a bit now. So knowing your suburb, knowing your area, or maybe you don't live in the suburbs. Maybe you live in a rural town, as I do. Maybe you live in an urban or built-up area. But just knowing that space, knowing the routes and avenues and no-go places and to-go places. This is kind of like looking at your area. So just open up your Maps app and look at it, and try to look at it from through a tactical lens. Like, what am I actually looking at here? Where are the avenues? Where are the places that I habituate? Why do I habituate them?
Or not a tactical lens, or a criminal lens.
Ooh, that's a good one. Yes. Actually, one of my favorite things to do whenever I'm planning stuff is to what we call red teaming, which is essentially just think like the bad person. And you can come out with, once you get used to doing it, some people are really crap at doing this. Some people are just naturals at it. But you can get really good at figuring out how a criminal might do things by just thinking about how you would do it. What would you actually do? So yeah, start to look at your place like this. Like, if I was a criminal and I wanted to get in, where would I do it? How would I do it?
Just looking carefully, trying to find that way in, and they'll take into all those things that we've already talked about, the 4 Ds there, and they're going to take that value. Is that value worth my time and effort, and how can I do it? Looking a little bit broader as we're talking about our area, wider area, thinking about the people around you. So your neighbours are super important as part of your security strategy. Keeping your home protected. You want your allies there to bolster up your castle walls and your forts when you need them. They'll keep an eye out for any suspicious behaviours or troublesome people around the area. And know your neighbours. They get out. I think I've said this before. Community is a big part of this. It's not a one-man job trying to protect everything. You want to do it as part of a community. And plus, you want to know who to talk to when people leave you notes about your dog's barking.
Yeah, yep. You want to know what stuff they have too. If you want to become the criminal. Guy over the road's got motorbikes, earth-moving equipment. Guy down the road's a builder. He's got tools.
I need those.
I live around plenty of old people. And I think some people think like, old people, they'll be useless in an emergency. Maybe, but they're actually quite handy. Some of the old folk that I live around, far more knowledgeable on all things than me. All things. Doesn't matter what it is, except probably, being in the military. But if I want intel, that's where I go.
Oh yeah, they're a great surveillance system.
They are a massive surveillance system. So one of the guys, we're getting a bit worried. There's a few things getting knocked off from work sites in our little block. And one of the guys said, I'm going to buy cameras, and I see you've got cameras up. Can you help me? So I helped him set up his camera system. Got it onto his phone and that, so he gets all the notifications now. And that's makes me feel better because, he's looked after a bit. But just when I was over there doing that sort of stuff, just start talking to him, and he knows every single person in the entire area that we live in. He knows the comings and goings. He knows what tradies come in and out of the areas. It's amazing.
Just sitting there on the front porch, just watching everyone.
Yep, pretty much he is. Just sitting out there waiting or out on his ride-on mower, mowing people's lawns. But yeah, he's just. I don't think he knows that he is this, but he's an awesome intel collector. So leverage that. If you've got that in your area, make friends with these people. Like not like kind of psychopathic like. I'm only getting this out of you. Like, just make friends with your neighbours. Yeah. It's like just a good idea. If things go sideways, it's always good to have more people, more community. It doesn't matter who they are, really, with a couple of exceptions. If your ex or something lives a couple of doors down, don't talk to them. No, don't rely on them. But apart from that, really connect in, build community. That's one of the big things when it comes to hardening your own house. Is that you've got people there. And I've actually, I've gone away for a week or so, and so I just popped over and saw him, big lance and said, "Can you just keep an eye on the house while we're gone?" Because there was some dodgy stuff going on at the time. And he said, "Yep, no worries." So he'd pop in. I'd see my cameras would kick on every now and then, and I'd see him doing a little patrol around my house, and it just made me feel good. Yeah, it's like cool. Someone's there. If there was a broken window, if there was something missing, if there was a busted lock somewhere, he'd know, and he'd notify me straight away. So, I think I've harped on about old people enough now.
Yeah.
Other things in your areas though, looking at the physical structures, so entry exit points, choke points, so things like bridges, one-lane streets, commonly used avenues that could get chocked up with traffic in an emergency zone, flood zones, fire hazard zones, things like that. Start to do little assessments like that. Have a look in your area, see if there's areas that are probably a little bit worse. Most places have it. Like if you think Canberra, you like Tuggeranong, Queanbeyan.
Make sure you've always got an out.
Yeah, no-go zones. Gang violence and such what. Melbourne, you're thinking Fitzroy, Richmond. I don't know. Now the West.
Bronia,
the Westies.
Ferntree
Gully.
The Basin.
Yeah. Sydney out west as well, I guess. No, it's becoming, better, I guess.
But with all these, like, it's making sure that, the pathways and alternate pathways. So you don't want to have just a singular entry and exit route because that can get blocked off very easily and then you're kind of pinned in. So, and that's prevalent, happens a lot. Look out in country areas where there's only one road in and out of town. A lot of towns do get cut off from floods and fire fairly regularly. So you want to have some idea if you're in the position to have an alternate route that you can make and set up. But know your routes in and out, whether that be, firstly by car, alternate by foot, third by horse, fourth by dog sled.
Dog sled?
Yeah.
Nice.
You don't have one?
No, I don't.
You should get one.
I should. Feel unprepared now. Use tools like Google Earth. Use the tool of Google Earth or whatever mapping system you want. There's very good ones out there. Maps.me, Gaia Maps, all these sorts of Guru Maps. Another one. Great map apps. Well worth investing a bit of time and maybe even money in some of these things so you can get a good scope of where you are and try and print these things out. Have hard copy maps if you don't if you can't buy them from the store, then just go onto one of these apps, print it out, mark things like rally points and that on it. So this sort of stuff, if you had multiple people in different locations in the area, and you said, hey, if anything goes wrong, here's a map. We'll all meet here. Identify those places you don't want to be caught, choke points, bad places, where the gangs hang, and know multiple ways to get off your property as well.
Indeed.
So everyone just sort of uses the driveway or the main foyer or whatever, structure you kind of live in. Most of us just use the one way all the time, but think about the alternate ways that you can actually move out and around that house and maybe do it more subtly where people can't see you do it.
Over the back fence, if need be.
Yep.
Might be an option.
Yep. I built a gate into my back fence.
Good plan.
Goes onto an easement, so it's well hidden. People are going to try and find me now.
Looking for the back gate.
Yeah, don't come in through the back gate. I've got Claymore set up on it. So. All right, so this also applies to the things that I was saying there. You mentioned earlier, like there's human threats here that could be a problem. And what we're talking about here is maybe an extended blackout has turned into civil unrest. People are looting houses and stuff like that. Like, how do you harden your house? How do you escape from it? But it could also be a bushfire. It could also be a flood. Like, there are environmental factors as well. Hey, so it's my child running around out the back there. These are the sort of things you want to map out as well. And to a certain extent, Australians kind of do this some Australians do this, I should say, when it comes to bushfire plans.
Yeah. Yeah. I say generally speaking, but there's always the occasional persons that get caught out.
Yeah. I'd say probably the majority of Australians don't do it because the majority of Australians live in cities. So they probably don't think about bushfires that much. But the majority of Australians who live in rural areas would do it. All right, let's talk about tools.
Tools. What sort of tools can you have to defend yourself? So it depends what you've got and what you're prepared to use and what you know how to use. Any tool that you pick up that you don't know how to use will quite readily be used against you. I often say, look, I don't have to bring any weapons to a fight because my enemies will bring enough for all of us.
Yep.
All I have to do is take it off them.
Yeah. The old, and I'm saying this one because I actually have seen it. The old katana sitting by the front door. People are like, oh, just use this, like, you know, if the zombie hordes come or, you know, if the shit hits the fan. Yep, this is what I'm going to use to defend the house. I'm like, cool. Have you trained in, like, any martial arts at all? And do you mind if I just check the sharpness of that blade?
Or just get it out and swing it around the house.
Yeah. Yep.
We say that just because it takes a bit to understand, look, these kind of melee weapons, if that's your primary go-to, knowing sort of the length of them, knowing how to use them in confined spaces such as a house, something that has to be practiced, has to be rehearsed.
Yeah, my primary weapon or tool is a torch. So it sits on my bedside table, and I know how to quickly access the flashing mechanism in it. And that I would use, and it's quite bright, so it would temporarily blind and disorientate someone who would, you know, be moving through my house in the dark. All of a sudden, you just get this strobe-like effect in your eyes, and then I can do other things.
I think a torch is a great one. So you're talking about sort of that stun effect, similar to like you can get electronic stun grenades and that out there these days, that flashbang type of things.
Yep.
But using a torch has got dual uses. You know, you can shine it around and have a look. It doesn't look that innocuous. It's not dangerous to kids to pick up and end up cutting themselves on or something ridiculous like that. A torch is a very good go-to for a tool or a weapon.
Yeah. Other non-lethal sort of things, noise-emitting devices, alarms, whistles, that sort of stuff. Again, disorientate people, freak people out. Good ones, sprays, where legal.
Sprays are good. Can be a little bit double-sided at times, especially in a confined space. Last thing, and you need to practice it to know how you react to getting a face full of pepper spray and how you're going to be able to function in that environment.
Yep.
I don't know if you remember getting gassed in the day.
I remember.
The tear gas and pepper sprayed in the face.
Yep.
This is what it feels like. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yep, they do these things to you when you're in the military. You get gassed, not like World War II kind of gas.
Tear gas.
Tear gas.
Tear gas.
Not mustard gas. You get tear gassed, you get pepper sprayed at some point, you get tasered. Do you get tasered?
Yep.
Yeah, you get tasered. It's good fun. It's great fun. Debilitating though. The pepper spray in particular, like that's one that I often see this sort of thing like, oh yeah, I've got pepper spray if they're in the States or something. Obviously it's not legal in Australia. And people go, oh, you know, I just use it like this or this. And I'm like, you really want to be careful with that, like the bear spray and things like that. Because you cop a face full of that stuff and you will be dropped.
Yeah.
Like you are non-functioning.
And some people react to it worse than others. I don't know if you can get used to it. I haven't really tried that approach, but some people react really badly. Some people get a face full of pepper spray and just go, eh.
Yeah. I mean, I break out in a sweat just thinking about a Rogan Josh, so spice is not my friend. And that's the key ingredient of pepper spray. Other defensive tools, so low profile sort of stuff, you know, what kind of things can we use to defend ourselves?
So we can have instead like a torch, it can be like a baton or a stick, a small staff, or your walking stick.
Bow. You've got a walking stick, don't you?
Yeah, I got several walking sticks.
I need to get a walking stick. Yeah.
As you get older, you may need a walking stick, or if you just want to be a sophisticated gentleman and walk around with a walking stick for no particular reason.
Yeah, it's cool. And in a non-pimp way.
Put the purple seat away.
Yeah. Written down here, axe handle. I've got many axe handles. Yeah. All of them are attached to axes.
Yeah. So, yeah, look, the old axe handle's a good one. I don't know if you really want that lying around your house, but it fits under the baton sort of thing. It makes people have like baseball bats and things like this. Sure, again, they're good. They're useful. Just know their limits, know how to use them, particularly in a confined space. The bigger your weapon, the more you swing, the more like you're going to hit a wall, object of your furniture, or a loved one that you're trying to protect.
Yes, that is a major concern. Why you should train extensively in any self-defense tool or technique before trying to utilize it. What about drills? Drills that we can do in the house. Drill the family.
Get 'em.
Be one of those people.
Just every Friday night, drills. That's all we do.
Yep.
All right, it's that time of the week again. Let's go.
It's pizza night. Everyone's like, oh, God, now we got to earn that pizza. No, just individual. I mean, you can train your family, can do drills with your family, but there's also stuff you can do by yourself, which is quite easy. Night movement within the house is a big one for me, and probably for you too.
Yeah.
Waking up in the middle of the night.
Quite naturally do this between 2 and 3 a.m. every morning. I don't want to turn any lights and disturb anyone. I don't want to disturb the dogs because they're sleeping too.
Yep.
So I need to navigate around the house. It's pitch black, or even with my eyes closed, and get to the comfort of the couch where I can just sit for a bit.
Yeah, I've got little alarm systems. The children that get set off like banshees if there's too much noise. So silence. Got to be a ninja.
Yeah, and that takes practice getting used to it, learning how to adjust and use your eyes, using your peripheral vision at night time. And I use a couple of advantages around my light switches and around the walls. I have little spots of glow tape. This allows me to sort of be able to see a bit of depth, know where the corners are. And if that day should appear that someone's in the house, I can see them moving past it. So I know exactly where they are at night time with no lights on, moving past my glow tape, so I know how far away and where they are. So that's an option.
Yep. That's a good one. You might want to, if you want to, drag your family into this sort of stuff, assign roles, get them to do certain things, like, if a certain code word gets yelled, or if there is a kerfuffle happening in the house, that the kids know to move to a certain area in the room, which is safer, and to get down. Maybe the partner moves to this position and gets on the phone and calls someone, whatever it might be that's appropriate to your particular family. Or, if this doesn't apply to a family, maybe you've got just living with other people. Maybe you could do that with other people. Simulating a knock or door breach scenario. Not sure how you do that without bashing someone, but no, just sort of thinking through it in your head, like, what are you going to do? What steps are you going to take? Where is your line in the sand?
Yeah.
And
there is a lot of value in visualization. Mm-hmm. Just visualizing, going through your head, what if? Yep. What would I do if this happened?
And then practicing silent communication.
No talking.
That actually means ambush. I don't know if you remember. No?
Just way too long there.
This is a lot of stuff we did in the army, like hand signals and things like that, and stop and get down, and faster and slower, and all these sorts of things. But it's not sort of stuff I'd teach my family necessarily. But maybe just thinking about, like, how you would express yourself, or you can go as far as having a formalized system, I guess, within your household. But how you would express yourself if you couldn't make a lot of noise, and it might just be just moving in to talk to someone and coming right up into their ear and whispering at a very, very, very low loudness level, so that only that person can hear. Like, that might be the best you can do.
Yeah, something like that, or a series of squeezes. If I squeeze your arm 3 times, it means we're moving out the back door as quick as we can.
Yep. One big squeeze means breach. Breach and clear.
It can be whatever you want, but it's just an easy way to set up a bit of a internal code.
Cool. All right. Just quickly, we'll talk about the legalities. We've said some naughty words on here. They're not naughty words. I say plenty of naughty words, but naughty as far as the algorithms of the internet go. Weapons. Per se, yeah. Spraying people in the face with bear spray. Can't say that kind of stuff. Expect to get away with it. No, make sure you understand legally what you can and cannot do, and obviously operate within those. There's no excuse. Like really, if you do something illegal, then it's illegal. That's the start and the end of it, really. So you really just know what you can actually do, and then work within your particular system. So, as a big example, again, you talk about this sort of stuff, and if people watch this from the US, inevitably a comment will drop in somewhere, probably on YouTube, saying that, well, I just blast them away with my 45. And I'll be like, yeah, I would too, but I can't. No, I wouldn't. I'd use 12 gauge shotgun. 45, mate. 12 shotties are good, mate.
Shotties are good.
But yeah, obviously you can't do that. In Australia, there's certain weapons you can't have, and so you just utilise the system that you have, and you do the best you can within the system you've got. So it might actually look more like passive sort of things, motion lights, cameras, and stuff like that you're actually utilising.
The idea being, if you can set up your layering system, if you can deter that person from coming in the first place, it never has to get that close where you have to use these ambiguous tools for deadly force at the end of the day. You can just keep them at bay through your planning and preparation.
Yep. And a long stick.
And a very long stick.
Just keep poking them. A bow staff. That's all you need. Psychological deterrence. So I was touching on this before, just reinforcing this sort of stuff. Trying to... That balance between trying to appear a hardened target without being overvalued. It's a nice little balance to try and strike there, to think about how you're going to do that. Yeah. Cameras and motion lights are pretty ubiquitous in Australia, at least. They're not that uncommon, so you're not going to look like you're a bowler if you've got those sorts of things.
But if you're setting up big, wide barbed wire fences and...
Yeah.
Yep. It might be a little bit extreme.
Yep. Barking dogs, closed blinds... These sorts of things, and like I said, the closed gate idea, these psychological barriers are not to be sneezed at. They are important. So if you are the kind of person who regularly checks your doors and locks your windows, that can be noticed by the outside. If you're the sort of person who closes your blinds at nights and has lights on even when you're not home, that kind of stuff gets noticed. It's all building a picture, which makes, again, if you jump into the criminal mindset and you're sitting there as a criminal, you're like, I don't know if someone's home right now. The blinds are closed. I can see there's light on. I went and tried the door. It's locked. And when I went up there, a light came on. This is too hard basket. There's a shitty shack down the street. I'm just going to go hit them.
Leave your TV or your radio playing inside.
Yep. Yeah. Good one for hotels as well. Cool. Yeah, anything else?
No, that's good.
All right. So this kind of ties into a bit of the prepper course that we've got up and running on the website. Well, up and running as in a beta test at the moment. So don't jump on there. I don't know when this is going to come out, but probably don't go jump on there and jump on. Shoot us an email instead at ragnarok.survival@protonmail.com. Feel free to jump on the site and have a poke around if you want, but it's in construction.
It's getting there.
It's in progress. Yeah, so we're building up the courses at the moment. This sort of thinking, this sort of idea, hardening your house, not specifically hardening your house, but how to go about planning for threats, will be part of our first course, our initial course, which is the Risk Readiness Protocol, which is all about planning, how you look at threats, how you look at the world. And then rolling into our second course, which will be the Preparedness Foundations course, or as I like to call it, the Prepper course. Everyone loves the word prepper. Conjures up images of tinfoil
picture.
hats.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Just sitting there, waiting for the world to collapse.
Yep.
It's going to be today.
It's definitely. Anything else you want to add in there?
No, that's good. Just if you have a look at the website and let us know what you think, even though it's done under construction. Just let us know.
And let us know what you think of these podcasts, whether you're watching it on YouTube or I'm going to try and get on to a few of the other ones like Rumble and something else. Whether you're listening to it on your favorite podcast listener, put a comment in, hit like, share it to someone. Even if that comment says, I don't like it, that's valuable information.
Yeah.
And that, we're always collecting that. If you're walking down a darkened street and you say, hey to someone and they go, F you, buddy, I'm going to kill you, that's information.
Valuable information.
So,
even negative is good information.
Yep. So let us know, even if it's negative. Apart from that, thank you very much for listening to this episode. Next up episode, I don't know when it's going to happen because you were about to fly overseas.
Going to Europe.
Yeah, for a month.
Yep.
So we'll see. Might do a over the phone one.
We'll give it a shot. We'll see how we go.
All right. Well, until next time.
Stay safe.
And see you in the future. That is the end of this tale. Until next we meet, keep the fires burning. Fra Eldi Verisum.